asked about how Irving's absence impacted the decision to make the trade, here's what he said.
They're completely separate from one another. Kyrie's absence and, the personal issues that he's dealing with, it has nothing to do with us, going after and attaining James Harden in this. Regarding Kyrie, when he'll be hopefully back and rejoining the team, part of that is going to be up to the NBA, and we're waiting for them to come out with, so they're ruling on the health and safety protocols. I have talked to Kyrie, so I know he's excited about getting back on the court with his teammates, as soon as possible.
Boy, is there a lot to unpack in the things that he just said, and the perfect man to do it, the one and only Jalen Rose, is here to give the people what they want. All right, let's go through those in order. The first thing he said was that the Kyrie Irving absence had no impact on their decision to trade for James Harden. Do you buy that?
I buy it, Greeny, because this was something that's been brewing, in particular this offseason when those three were in Los Angeles playing pickup games together. And here's the deal. They did a terrific job of formulating a big three in Brooklyn with the Nets. And when you're trying to make that omelet, it's going to be some broken eggs. And unfortunately for the Rockets and their fans, it was them. Because Kyrie and KD were already with the squad. So James was the one that had to go to his team and say that he wanted out. A guy that's been an MVP, won multiple scoring titles. They'll likely retire his number one day. So he had to make it unceremonious for his situation so that he can now make it happen. But now that it's happened, this is going to be outstanding for the NBA because we have a built-in villain, as the people like to call it. KD left the Splash Brothers, and they're beloved. Kyrie left LeBron, and he's the king. And I just said what happened with James Harden. Now you have LeBron, the king on the West, sitting on the throne, and now you have the Nets and KD, a two-time Finals MVP on the East Coast. We needed this for Eastern Standard Time.
I'm with you on that part of it, but obviously one of the big three is not there. Another thing Sean Marks just said is, I've talked to Kyrie and he's excited to be back on the floor with his teammates. Well, what exactly should we make of that, considering at least in one big way, he's the reason he's not on the floor with his teammates?
So, of course, we always got to take, mental health and or any anxiety or depression into account when we're talking about any human beings. But beyond that, he has a personal and a professional responsibility to his team and to his teammates to show up for work, Greeny. And when he doesn't show up for work, don't donate $400,000 back to the team. If you really want to make some moves in the community with that money, take that game check and actually do that. And he's been a terrific ambassador in so many facets of giving back to his community, Greeny, and it's not talked about enough. But I understand not to confuse Kyrie walking around the floor burning sage on the right wing, because I still have images of him at Golden State hitting a big shot over Steph Curry, winning a championship on the right wing. I know that Kevin Durant is coming back from an Achilles injury, but when he won his 2 championships, that was against LeBron James. James Harden, along with the Greek freak and Dame Lillard, are probably the 3 best players that haven't won championships in today's game. So now if you KD, you come to the West. You saw LeBron win a championship in the East. I mean, if you KD, you go to the East because you saw LeBron do it. You saw Kawhi do it. And now KD's in the East. And when the Splash Brothers get back and LeBron has AD, this is going to be fantastic theater for the NBA.
Yes,
Kyrie will find a way to return to the team. Trust me, when his protocol ends, Greeny, he want to be a part of this show because that's what it's going to be.
Let's make it clear, because now he may have violated the NBA's COVID protocol, and we'll see what the league decides to do. And you just touched on it. He gets paid a little over $408,000 per game. So the 5 games that he's missed, in theory, would be $2 million worth of salary. Now, we don't believe he's being docked that in any meaningful way. But how about that part of it? How about the league's place in this and the COVID piece of this?
That's enough biscuits for the projects, boy. $2 million, I tell you, man. But here's the thing, Greeny. During the season, there are going to be ebbs and flows with players. But ultimately, this is what's going to happen. He's going to pay his fine. He's going to clear COVID protocols. James Harden is going to have a press conference today. He's going to play basketball with the Nets possibly Saturday if everybody clear their physicals. At some point next week, probably, Kyrie Irving is going to return to this team. And they're going to have a spectacular big three, unlike the one, probably the last time we've seen this was when LeBron joined up with Wade and Chris Bosh. Two of these guys have already won championships. Harden has already won an MVP. This is going to be great theater. And I'm going to just tell you this. I'm still not picking them to win it all this year. I'm picking the Milwaukee Bucks to still come out of the East. So while I'm giving them all of this praise, this ain't going to be the year for them to win the East. The back-to-back reigning MVP, Giannis Antetokounmpo, just got Drew Holiday along with Middleton. People still sleeping on Chris Middleton. Did y'all see him ball in the playoffs last year when the Greek Freak wasn't available? That continuity is going to mean something in an abbreviated season. The Bucks will eliminate the Nets if they play them in the playoffs.
You and I had a suit bet on something that happened last year. You won it from me. This is another bet I want to make. We'll talk about that offline. Have an outstanding weekend. The great Jalen Rose.
Brother. Thank you.
And we will see you later. The absolute best. All right, back to the football, I should say, where we got three big coaching moves in the last 24 hours. One of them this morning, Diana Rossini reporting the Falcons have offered their head coaching position to Arthur Smith, who's been the Titans' offensive coordinator the last 2 years. Last night, the Jets hired 49ers defensive coordinator Robert Saleh to be their head coach. According to Shefty, that's a 5-year deal. And then, lastly, Urban Meyer coming back to the sidelines, this time as the head coach of the Jaguars. He's one of the most successful college coaches in the history of the sport. He released a statement that reads, in part, I've analyzed this decision from every angle. The time is right in Jacksonville. The time is right for me to return to coaching. I'm excited about the future of this organization and our long-term prospect for success. So let's talk about it here. Our NFL reporter, Kimberly Martin, with us all morning long. Kimberly, what can you tell us about this hiring, Urban in Jacksonville?
Well, Urban didn't say much about the reasons for choosing Jacksonville in that statement. We're going to hear from Urban in probably the next couple hours by 11:30. So all the answers to a lot of questions, the biggest being, why now? Why this job? Why Jacksonville? And I find it really interesting that somebody like Urban Meyer, who has jumped around and waited for different opportunities, the right opportunities, figures that this Jacksonville team, this time in history, in all their years of being bad, this is the time to come out the booth. Big reason, that #1 pick and Trevor Lawrence. I think that shows you enough how important that #1 pick is and what they feel about.
Keep him safe.
Not at all. Not at all. I mean, you have to keep him safe. If you don't use those tight ends in protection and have them chip out to the flat. I mean, look at what Tom Brady has done in the past. He likes to use those guys that are chipping to help, and then they get out into the flat. So if that's a running back, if it's a tight end, they're going to help in the pass rush to give him some time, and then they're going to chip out and go to the flat. So with that, he still has his receivers running all the routes and all the route trees that he likes them to run. So for me, I personally think that having the tight ends on the field, granted they take off one of the skilled receivers, having the tight ends on the field actually help Tom to where he can look down the field, evaluate the defense, make his best choice, and if it's not there, he's just going to check the ball down.
It's interesting. I'm sure a lot of people looked at Gronk not having a catch last week and thought he didn't play a very important role. But I think what we're teaching here is that that was a significant piece of it and might be again. So, RC, then let me come to you, as I'm told that you're back with me here now. We talk about teams trying to beat another team for a third straight time. The Saints dominated both meetings. One of them was week 1, and then the other one was 38-3. You were in a good division where you played against those Ravens a bunch of times. Talk about that third meeting between these two teams.
Oh, it's extremely difficult. I mean, because if you're in one of the locker rooms, the locker room that has won 2 games that season, you're preaching we have to do the same thing. We have to keep our foot on the gas pedal. But if you're the Tampa Bay Buccaneers or the team that lost 2 games, you're looking and dissecting those films and you're changing your game in preparation of being prepared to play this team again. And when you look at some of the adjustments that Bart and Nico are saying that the Tampa Bay Buccaneers have made, they made those adjustments for the New Orleans Saints. In the 2 games that the Tampa Bay Buccaneers played this team, they were dominated up front by the Saints D-line. The secondary played extremely well because of the Marshawn Lattimore-Mike Evans matchup. Now you have Antonio Brown. Now we're keeping tight ends in the block. We're bringing in extra linemen. This team has been put together throughout the season and continued to grow for this moment. And Tom Brady is telling this team, it doesn't matter what happened in the regular season. If we go out and win now, this is what counts. And I think the Tampa Bay Buccaneers coming to this game confident. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers coming to this game feeling that they are a different team. But make no mistake about it. If the Saints jump out on their head, if Tom Brady